Good morning. This is such a pleasure. Today I have with me a beautiful woman inside and out. And she has gone through a lot in her life. And that hasn't made her who she is, but it did help to empower her to become even stronger person. And without further ado, I would like to welcome to the show Kimberly Handy Jones, community activist.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're quite welcome. So, Kimberly is going to be talking to us today about the Cordale Q Handy and Remembrance of Me Foundation. And with that, I'm going to let her tell you about why this foundation came about. And it is honoring her son, and it is a foundation that will empower others that have gone through and experienced some of the things she has experienced in her life with violence. And I'm going to let Kimberly tell you about that and speak to you about that. So, Kimberly, before we get into that, tell my listeners a little bit about who you are.
Well, I'm a woman, a Black woman. I'm a mother. I also a mother of three, and I also do foster care. And I've fostered 21 kids in my home. My husband and I, who passed away March 28th, 2015, but I continue to still foster children, and I've adopted a lot of kids, and I've also taken guardianship. So I've always had a passion for life, a passion for the things that I love about life. So foster care was one. And just giving the kids home, nurturing, to let them know that, you know what, someone will love you in spite of what you're going through. So as I took on that journey and I raised my three kids along with these other 21 kids, I never thought that my son would be gunned down March 15th in 2017 by Miko Norman and Nathaniel Johnson, St. Paul, Minnesota. So I always knew that God had a platform for me. And I always thought, well, maybe foster care, helping biological moms try to get their kids home, or teaching new foster parents, the ropes of what it takes to foster children and the needs to be able to foster them. That wasn't it. I thought maybe teenage pregnancies, those mothers, that wasn't it, because I was a teenage pregnant mom. No. So March 15th of 2017, when Cordale was executed by those two policemen, I knew then that was the platform that God had extended to me. So I just became an obedient, chosen vessel. And I started to do the work of activism. And as I started to get into it more and more, and I kept going back and forth to Minnesota, I seen that the people was hurting. And I questioned God, why would you take my son? Some people would say, well, a lot would say, you don't question God. But I know that if I don't ask, he won't give me the answer. And he spoke just as clearly to me. Cordell was where I needed you to be. Upon going to Minnesota, I seen so many mothers who was paralegically mute, physically, emotionally, psychologically, uh, just didn't have a voice. And I seen the hurting and the suffering in those parents' face. And so I just kept going back and started to speak up. And like I said, kept doing the work of an activist and continued to stay in the activism role. And I find myself out there on the front line a lot
Mhm.
with those mothers. And that was the call. And so, see, I was being set up to be used by God, and I just didn't know it at that time. And I said, well,
Wow.
Lord, if you keep choosing me, I'll keep being chosen. So upon that, I had to get my son home, bury him. And I'm out there one day, and I knew I wanted a foundation. I didn't know what I wanted. I said, well, we got everybody feeds the kids. We have college scholarships. We have a lot of those. And I thought, oh, I want something different. So that was in 2017, shortly after he passed. So I said, well, it'll come to me. So
Mhm.
every week, 2 times a week, I would go out there and clean my husband, my mom, grandmother, just family members' headstones. And so as I'm out there cleaning Cordale's, I just wept. I couldn't stop crying.
Mm.
And as I'm crying, God just spoke to me. He said, "Here it is. Here's what you can do. How
Mhm.
about headstones?" And I could hear my son saying to me, "Make it happen, baby." So that was the vision that God had given me. So when I got up and I got in my car, I called my lawyer who was doing the foundation and writing up all the bylaws for me. I said, I got it. I know what I want to do. I said, I want to give headstones to families who have lost children to police brutality.
Wow.
And he says, okay, let's make it happen. So when I began to speak to other activists and community members about it, people was like, that might be too big for what we can see. And I thought, I'm stepping out on faith. So I
Mhm.
got that one yes from God, and all those other no's didn't mean anything, because we know that if you get one yes from God, a million no's don't even matter anymore. So it began to come into fruition. We got it all written out, and it became a foundation July 7th of 2018 on my son's birthday. And the
Wow.
Lord that did it didn't even know it was my son's birthday. So I mean, it was meant to be, right?
Mhm.
I got the confirmations from God. And so we that first year we gave away 2 headstones, because these are headstones are given by people donating. So we gave away 2 headstones to 2 family members. And it was like about, and I gave a banquet that year also around the March, around my son's anniversary. So we had 8 parents, including myself, at the banquet, and community
Mhm.
members and activists. So that venue only held like 250. So that was it was beautiful. Then the next year we had maybe 15,
Mhm.
and we gave away maybe, I think, 5 headstones. And then the third year we gave away, it was like maybe 30, 34 parents, and we gave away 7 headstones. But this year we knew we had to move the venue because we were outgrowing the other venue and we needed bigger space. So this year we found the Hilton in
Mhm.
Minneapolis, downtown. And so we could have up to 500 people. Now, mind you, I had to go to July to do that, because just in case I needed, and July 7th is his birthday, so I could do it on his birthday, around the birthday time. But I knew that I needed to get space. So if we needed to, July is perfect month for weather to be able to do
Mhm.
something outside if you can't find a venue. So we found the Hilton, which that venue holds 3,000, but with COVID guidelines, we could have up to 500 people.
Mhm.
So this year I had 144 parents, family members this year at the Hilton, and we were able to give away 16 headstones. So
Wow.
usually, yeah, people say, oh, well, my board will say, well, how many you gonna give away this year, Miss Kim? And I said, well, I don't know, we'll see. And so as the applications come in, because you have to put in an application,
Mhm.
uh, we just kept taking them, and they was like, well, when do you want to close it? I said, we're not gonna close it. So, I'm always just raising the bar, because it's the hardest thing in the world is to be able to give someone something and know someone else is without. So I just keep raising the bar. I don't, you've lost your son, at least you could do is just have a headstone so you'll know where your child lie. If you need to go visit, you can go do that. And I'm sitting there crying, but hurt, because I don't have my child, but at the same time,
Mhm.
God allowed me to see you blessed. Your child has a headstone. You can come and visit. You know where he's at. And it makes you think about the families that don't have that. So that's how that came into fruition. And the following year, 2019, I began to add on community violence. So it's just not families impacted by police brutality, it's also families impacted by community violence. So we have a mixture. And this year I did something different, Linda. Usually I do mothers and fathers.
Hmm.
So for the last 3 years, from 18 to 20, it would be all mothers.
Right.
And so God had already given me the vision and allowed me to see that Minnesota would be the largest stolen life platform. And
Mm.
so this year, I said, you know something? I'm going to do siblings. I'm going to have the siblings of these loved ones come. And what brought me to that, my son, we were sitting here one holiday, Thanksgiving last year,
Hmm.
and he was eating, and it's like, he, he just got up with his plate and he began to dump his plate. He said, I just wish bro was here. And you know, when I'm talking to my kids about the loss of their sibling, I'm talking and I'm coming to them as a mother because I've never lost a sibling. So it's
Mm.
really hard for me to relate about losing a sibling. Now, if you was asking me about losing a husband, a mother, a son, yeah, I could relate as a wife. I could relate as a child who's lost a parent, but I couldn't relate to them about losing a sibling. I can only relate about my circumstance as a mother.
Right.
You know, like I'm saying isn't enough. I'm not saying or conveying to them what they want to hear or what they need to hear. I'm still coming to them as a mother. So
Right.
I thought, wow, this would be a fortune to be able to have these siblings in the room and allow my kids and kids from around the world to see you're not alone.
Mm.
Other siblings have lost their siblings, so they need someone too to be able to talk to and reach out to. And so that was the beauty because siblings are often silenced. Siblings often don't have a voice.
Mm.
So, and they need that voice. They really do. And so I was able to do that. And then the beauty of this year was I was able to have fathers at the table. That's something I had not had in 3 years. I hadn't had any fathers, and it's not that there's no fathers out there. They just weren't coming. And that's the thing. We need to see our Black men.
Hmm.
We need to know that they're out there, they're standing with us, they're supporting us, and it's just as equally important to them. And so I was able to have that this year, and that truly was a blessing to see my Black kings and to know, yes, I'm here. Yes, I lost a son. Yes, I'm out here. I'm on the front line, and I'm
Hmm.
protecting my queens, and I'm protecting my Black children around the world and speaking out, saying, no more.
Hmm.
Enough is enough. So yeah, I got a blessing this year, and they loved the banquet so much they kept saying, wow, I wish we could stay one more day. So we've extended it starting at Friday when the parents come in, and they're leaving that Monday because they just want to take that Sunday to relax and unwind and debrief and leave out on Monday. And during the banquet, so when they come in on a Friday, they do a rally, and I tell them to wear their loved one's shirt with a picture and a name. And then we feed them, of course. And then that Saturday, we have something I call a Lift Every Voice, which is a grief and healing circle. So I was able to do one this year for the siblings as well as the parents. And so that brings out a lot. I had a mother tell me, I don't speak out like that. And she just began to like just erupt and speaking. And I said, wow, I said, this is epic because a lot of them won't. And she said,
Hmm.
I've never done that. And her son, he died in 2015 or 16. And she said, I've never done that. She said, but I just felt safe. I felt like I could speak. And she did. And that's the thing, when you're around a bunch of people who look like you, been impacted like you, it makes it easier to trust trust the sacred space. It makes it easier to trust the people that you're pouring your heart out too, because we understand. And when parents speak and they're speaking to someone who's been impacted, it's like we feel all that. We understand all that, and we don't judge one another. That's the thing too. You can speak about your child, but then people go back. Well, I heard this. I was told this. It's
Mhm.
that judgment. You know, that hurts a lot of families. And I have like news reporters that want to come into the banquet and they want to film and record and they want to do stories and all that. I've never invited any of them in there. I do live stream only. I only let live stream media come in because parents get to hear what they say in real time. So it's not like they can go back and edit, subtract, multiply, and divide and add. It's not that.
Right.
So and I just want to keep them safe because I know how it was when my son was gunned down. People had a lot to say. Oh, I heard this. He was this. He was that. I don't care what he was. He was mine,
Mm,
loved, not just by me, but by many. And what my family was going through. Some. Did you hear? Did you see what that person wrote? They said this, and they were hurting. And I remember I had to tell one of my family members. I said, you know what? I said I can't let that take me
mm,
away from what I really need to be doing. I have a bigger fight than this. I don't have time to tongue tussle with people that don't mean me any good, with people who I can really care less about. This ain't even about them. This is about my child. And I refuse to let the take me away from the course. And that's the
mhm,
thing. Sometimes in a fight with parents, you get so lost. You
mm.
get so lost that you just start swinging on anybody. And I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. I get it. I totally get it.
You know what? That's incredible. You've taken this pain, this heartache of losing a son, a child to violence. And I mean, you could have done anything with that emotion. You could have just taken it and engulfed, allowed it to engulf you and make you into this miserable person. Instead, you heeded the calling. You really felt that, yes, I know God is speaking to me and I have to take this pain and do something positive with it. I don't want it to eat me alive. And you did just that. And you embraced that pain and you took that. And I'm telling you, you are just soaring with what you're doing. I had the pleasure of attending your rally this past July. And I am here to say that it was simply amazing. There were hundreds of people in that Hilton ballroom, and the decor, the black and white that you choose each year, I mean, the black and red rather, that you choose each year was just simply beautifully done. You had these volunteers come in, and your decor and the decorators just did a phenomenal job. The people were so embraced with love. And then the time periods that we had, the downtime that we had to just sit and talk and have an adult beverage
Yeah.
and talk to some of the families, and they all had their t-shirts on, and the time period that their child transitioned, and just speaking to them and hearing their stories was heart-rending. At the same time, it was empowering for them to have someone listening to them with an impartial ear and just listen to their stories and just say, I understand, I care. I care about what you went through. And the whole event was just so uplifting. The march that you had on that Saturday, I took part in that. And could you tell us a little bit more about what happened on that march on that Saturday afternoon? I think it was Saturday.
Uh, that was Friday.
Friday, thank
So
you.
Friday is when the parents all get there. So we usually generally start marching at 6. So once they've all arrived, they get there, they check in their rooms, let them relax, kind of wind down, freshen up. And so then what we did, because it's gotten so big, it's like we can't really like use personal vehicles anymore to transport them to the rally. So what we did was we got a bus driver. We had a bus company take the parents, and we gave it this year at the community center in St. Paul, which is not too far from where my son was gunned down. So they come there, we fed them, we get to commune with one another, talk to one another, and something interesting happened, Linda. I want to share that with you. So one of the mothers, she seen two pastors. I guess they were walking past and they wanted to know what was going on. And they were black pastors and they were with their wives. And so she told him, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'd like to get involved." And so she brought him over there to me, and they said, "Yeah, well, we heard what's going on, and this really sounds phenomenal, but we would like to get involved with this. And what is it that we need to be doing?" And they just went on and on. And so I said, "Well, you're welcome to come. I would never say you can't come. The more support, right, the better."
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, I just moved here, kind of like it's almost in a defensive way, because what you don't see is a lot of pastors being involved. I just got to be honest, you don't. And they're
Mm-hmm.
killing our kids, and no one is exempt." And so he
True.
said, "Well, I just got here." And I said, "Oh, okay." And he says, "Well, I just moved to Minnesota. Me and my wife about, maybe," he said, "3-4 months. And this is Pastor so and so, and this is his wife." And I said, "Okay, well, nice meeting you." He said, "Well, I didn't know nothing about this. I just got here." I said, "It's been going on 400 years, with all respect.
Ha!
How do you not know nothing about this?" I said,
Wow.
that kind of struck me strange. And he just kind of stood there and he just kind of looked at me. And so I was like, "Well, you're welcome to get involved. I have yet to see him. But here's what I will say: the march, the fight for justice must go on at all costs, by any means necessary." And I'm going to continue along with the rest of them to keep my boots on the ground. So from there, we start marching, and we start calling out all the loved ones' names. And then as we march and call names and do chants, we make it to the site where my son was gunned down. And there's a nice mural there of him, which the restaurant owner gave that space to me. And you have up the street Indigenous Roots, a native company, who had a artist paint Cordale's picture. So when he said, "Well, I'll give you this wall," he says, "and you can paint Cordale's picture," because they remodeled and they took up the memorial site off the ground. And I said, "Well, okay, well, let me just find an artist, see what they charge." He said, "No, Cordale paid with his blood. We're going
Wow.
to do that." So I knew that I wanted a bench. So last year I was able to get the bench and design it, and put his face in the boots. He loved Timberland boots. Put Timberland boots on it and put part of the chant on it and the foundation name. And just a place where people can sit down and eat. And I get a lot of pictures through Messenger, or people text me and said, "Look, I was over here today and I just came and I sat down on the bench and I just wanted to be in the space where Cordale's mural is." And they said, "Oh, I could feel his spirit."
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah. So
I
whenever
love
I'm
it.
in Minnesota, I go and I sit down, and then when we rally, it gives families an opportunity to speak and share their loved one's story, if that's what they feel like they want to do. Or they could talk about the violence that goes on with policemen, with the community. I'm not one to force families to share their story. I think that should be a choice,
Mm-hmm.
because often, a lot of times, you'll find people sharing their loved one's story, and really a lot of times it just re-traumatizes you. And I just don't hold a selfish platform. I think for me, I allow others to do more. I talk about Cordale, but I'm not one of those ones, when I take the mic, talk about Cordale. Everybody pretty much knows me in Minnesota, and I'll just say his name and say who I am and who he was to me. And I just always think, my son's story isn't for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't. I had a guy
Mm-hmm.
doing the banquet. The next day come down in the hotel lobby and he says, oh, you're Courtney's mom, right? And I said, no, I'm Cordale's mom. And he says, oh, well, I was talking to one of the parents and I was asking what was the red and the black colors about and the people wearing pictures on t-shirts of their loved ones.
Mhm.
So she began to tell him, and he says, I said, my son's name was Cordale. So he asked my daughter to point me out. So she pointed me out to him. And he says, so he leans over like this and he gets all up in my face. And he says, well, I'd like to know Cordale's story. I said, Cordale's story isn't for everyone. I said, and another thing, if you were on the right side of justice, you wouldn't need to know Cordale's story. Now, would you? You
Huh.
already know Cordale's story. And I said, and I'd like for you to get out of my face, you know, because you have people that'll walk up to you. I don't know, you could be the police. I don't know who you are, you know, and then we do have white terrorists that will literally use themselves as a plot. You know, we've had I don't know if you've seen it or read it when Winston Smith got killed uptown Minnesota. You know, we have white people that are allies and that march and protest with us. So they set up barricades, like they'll put their cars in front of blocking off the street so no one can come through. This guy ran through the barricade and killed a white lady
Oh,
named
wow.
Deanna Marie, who was an ally. So I mean, yeah, it gets dangerous. You talk about rubber bullets, pepper spray. Yeah, it can get ugly. And you've seen the uprising of George Floyd. It got really bad. So you know, we do have marshals, and they're all white marshals because we know that white people are less more harmed than black and brown and indigenous bodies, right? So
Mhm.
they put their bodies in the way to protect black, brown, and indigenous bodies because
Right,
white terrorists are less likely to do more harm to white people than they would one of us.
right,
So, you know, you have white allies out there that do believe Black Lives Matter and
right.
will put their bodies on that front line and surround black bodies to protect them.
You know, that is so very true. When I took part in the demonstration, the march on that Friday, that is exactly what I witnessed. I saw a lot of the white supporters, and bless their hearts, that did. They were walking on the outer skirts of the group of people in many cases. And of course, they were all intertwined, but I did notice that they were on the borders of us with their signs, and they were doing the chants too. So yeah, I that's amazing that that happened and that you pointed that out. I can see how that can be beneficial to you. And yeah, there are those who would love to see that not to happen each year. They would love to dissuade you and discourage you and the supporters from doing what you do. But thank goodness that's not going to dissuade you. That's going to empower you because I know who you are. And no, that's not going to happen. She's going to be out there every year. She's going to do the march every year. And she has hundreds, if not thousands, of supporters around the country. Because I know also that you are invited to go speak at various different events for nonviolence, to stopping the violence against Blacks, police brutality around the country. And I encourage you and I applaud you for doing that. And and you've been amazing. And I love hearing your story. And I hope it would empower and encourage those who have witnessed this kind of thing or had this happen to them in their lives where they are suffering from what police brutality has done to them and their families. And it's not an easy thing to overcome. I mean, you live with that each and every day, that you miss that loved one from sitting at that dinner table. It's something that would never, never stop hurting. It's always going to be with you. But you can turn it around and make it a more positive end result, because they would love to keep their foot on your neck and to keep you down and dissuade you and make you feel less empowered, but it's not going to happen. And we come down to the end of the show, and I hate it because you have so much more to talk to us about. But I would like to ask you, what is it at this point in my show called Backward? I encourage my guests to leave some parting words of encouragement for my listeners, how to to give them that push so they can keep going? What would you say to them?
I would say to them, when you look around your home and you look at your beautiful Black children and family members, just Black people and period, you need to get activated. You need to get activated. You need to get up and put your boots on the ground, because we have people out there that have never lost children, Black people, uh, who are out there
Mhm,
fighting for
mhm.
the justice of Black people, fighting for equality of Black people, saying, hey, no more, no more. And one thing about what is going on in our nation, we're not exempt. Death will be sitting right there at your very kitchen table, lying in the bed with you, knocking on your front door. Because I can reflect back to when Sandra Bland, Eric Garner, those young men and women were gunned down by police. I thought, oh my God, I can't even imagine.
Hmm.
I do today. That's my reality. And I would just encourage people, don't wait till the nightmare happen. Get up and do something about it, because you can't do anything if you're just sitting around. If you got 5 or 10 minutes, get out there, you know, push for difference. A lot of people say, oh, well, you know what? I'm awake. I don't need you to be awake. I need you to be woke and stay woke.
Ha,
Awake is just not enough for Black people.
right.
They went from hanging us to choking us out with knees on my neck. It's a modern day lynching out here.
Mhm.
And the sad part is that a lot of times, when we were coming up, Linda, let's just be honest. Our grandparents are living to be old people. And maybe old age might have taken them out, or maybe a terminal illness. And the same with our parents. We're living to make it. But we are in a day and age where we are burying our children. And nobody ever thinks that they will bury their child. They think that their child's going to bury them. That's not
Mhm.
happening today. And to the Black young men and women out here gunning each other down, we've got to love ourselves. We've got to love ourselves past our point of pain. I know that we've been told over 400 years that we weren't going to amount to anything. We'd never be anything, but we are enough. And we got to know that we are enough all by ourselves. And we have to love ourselves. Yeah, it's sad when we have that much hatred for ourselves. And I just want to encourage the parents out here. We could say, well, yeah, they parents of this. And I had a young lady tell me this in Minnesota that was running for mayor. Oh, it's the parents. The parents need to take responsibility.
Mhm.
I don't care if a parent is present or not. It does not warrant the right for law enforcement to be killing our children. It does not warrant the right for us to hate each other that much. And if the parents aren't doing it, then we need to be the village that do it for them.
Mhm.
Whether or not they listen, whether or not they're receptive, I could say one thing: at least I tried. And knowing that I tried is enough for me. So we got to stop blaming each other and start loving each other. And we got to stop talking about, oh, I'm awake, and be woke and stay woke, because we are enough. Black people, we are enough. We are more than enough. We're everything God said we would be. We are
Mhm.
enough.
That is it. We are enough. You said that. We are enough. And oh my God, I have to reiterate that. Stop killing each other for a street corner, for a city block that is not yours anyway, because you think your group is better than this group and you have the right to kill another human being. No, you do not. You don't ever have the right to take a life because you can't give a life.
No,
Kimberly, would you
hey.
mind leaving us with the mantra that you use, the boots on the ground?
Oh, you want me to chant it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, it's a remix
It's
to it.
raw. It's what, bring it, bring it. This is all about you.
Okay, so okay, boots on the ground. We're here to shut the shit down. Boots on the ground. We're here to shut the shit down. You can't get nothing if you're sitting around. You gotta put your boots, you gotta put them on the ground. 1 foot up, 1 foot down, put them both together, got boots on the ground. Remix, boots on the motherfucking ground. We're here to shut the shit down. Boots, boots, Boots on the ground. We're here to shut the shit down. Boots, boots, boots on the motherfucking ground. We're here to shut the shit down by any means necessary. Because you can't get nothing if you're sitting around. You gotta put them boots, you gotta put them motherfucking boots on the ground, people. Black people, get up, get dressed, stay up, get activated, and get busy because we are enough. Put them boots on the ground. Again, let's not sit around. Put boots on the ground.
Kimberly Handy Jones, thank you so much for being a part of They Made It Happen.
Yes.